there's a ton of resources on Level. Where would you start out among
Our
all
5-day challenge.
5-day challenge.
It's free. You
Yeah.
just go there. It's 5 days. We teach you how to make a sale. It's great. The high level 5-day challenge, that is where you would start.
Yeah. So Shaun Clark, super nice to have you here again. Missed the recording button last time, so we're short running now. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Shaun? Let people know who you are.
Yeah, so I'm the co-founder of GoHighLevel. We're an all-in-one CRM and marketing platform, and I'm technically the CEO, but that doesn't really mean anything. It just means the two co-founders do more important things, so I just make the videos these days.
We know you do more than that. You know, we can see you're very active in the Facebook group. Next question. So, being a CEO in your position, obviously you're a really big company and you're growing like crazy too. And the norm would be that the CEO is nowhere to be found, right?
But I guess that's what I've been told, but I've never experienced that myself.
No, and I wanted to ask, what is it that makes you so active? I mean, we can see you in the Facebook group with all the release of new features, like you're really inside of the community conversation with us, your resellers, affiliates, and what's the motivator for that?
Well, I mean, I really like what I do, and I really love what we're building, and I love all the people that we're helping, and where it's going. And so I guess for me, it feels like, why wouldn't you want to be where all the action is? And I guess a big part of what makes us different is, we feel like we're very much in service of our customer. Like, we're the development shop for our customer, essentially. And so really the customer's on the front line of pushing the envelope. And so for me, it's like, we're building the race car, but they're driving it. And so we want to know what's working, what's not working, how we can make it better, what we can do to help it make it, improve it. And all of that comes through customer feedback. And so ultimately for me, the closer I can get to the action, the more I'm going to learn, and the faster we can make the car better.
Yeah. And you can really see that you have a speed that's nowhere to be found with the competitor. We have new feature releases like a couple of times a day now, isn't it? Like,
oh yeah, every weekday, and sometimes on the weekends as well. So after this call, I'll go and hit up my release list, and I'll probably have 5 or 6 new things out today, and pretty much every day these days.
Can we talk a little about that?
Sure.
You're a really big organization. From what I heard from Fer, having him on here, you have somewhat like 35, 40 different teams that are responsible for different parts of the system.
Yep.
How do you bind all that together and getting the team to like operate as one when you so many people?
I mean, in some sense you don't. That's the most important thing. You don't try to make everybody, there are some standards for sure, things like UI libraries or that kind of thing. But even like, like common infrastructure stuff, you have a whole infra team that handles that. So actually the goal is to keep people, if you want people to be very actionable, you actually want to make them very small teams, because the more you try to push everybody together, the slower everything gets. And so the way we do it is product managers and run their individual units. They're responsible for their own KPIs. The engineers that work with them and the engineering managers are all their own teams. And so, while again, there are some common core API things and so forth, the centralized things can be, the better. And that, again, all the way from the technical level all the way up to the decision-making level. So the product managers, their job is, to hit their KPIs, and they get to make the decisions on how to do that. Now, there are some common standards, like we have, they all do town halls where they show the current roadmap on Zoom, and then they show the future roadmap, and they get, sort of feedback. So some of those mechanisms are the same, but they're all done individually. And I think that's really important, because then the other thing is, you have to judge product managers and teams individually as well. And you don't want them to be like, well, I could have done this, but so-and-so didn't do that. Like, you want to remove a lot of those excuses. And for really good, talented people, they don't want to be stuck in some big, massive, cog kind of system. And so ultimately keeping them separate is really important for fast movement.
Yeah. And I think talking about that, like fast movement, like, is there any minimum, output or something like that?
Yeah, so the engineering teams have some of that, but where I come in is I'm more interested in looking at the individual roadmaps. In fact, right now we're roadmapping for Q2, and so that's another thing that's important. We only roadmap 1 quarter at a time, and the reason for that is really simple. We want to be very flexible. So right now, what we're doing is starting to go through the presentations for next quarter, because we're right here at the tail end. We're looking at, hey, how did we do on Q1? What are we doing for Q2? And how are the KPIs moving? And so for me, that's kind of where I come in to understand where we're at, and then to throw in my personal opinion on what I think we should focus on, or so forth and so on. But the product managers are still ultimately the decision makers when it comes to deciding what they're going to do. And what I really do is I hold them accountable to those KPIs.
Okay. So scaling a SaaS empire, I mean, you've gone from zero to multi-million-dollar brand. What's the single most important move made in the early days of setting HighLevel and the path to explosive growth?
You know, it was really about making sure that we were making money for our customers. So from the very beginning, we were, I think, fortunate in the sense that we had a customer base that wanted to, was running into a problem with their businesses making money and scaling. And so we attacked the problem first. But as a result, we were able to help them make more money. And ever since then, that's really all we care about. And so, it's a lot of features could have been developed that weren't or were delayed because they didn't fundamentally, they might be nice to have, but they're not going to make that business more money. And so really for us, we made that as our central KPIs of business is how much revenue are our customers generating. And because we can measure that through the system, that is the way by which we live. So for me, that's kind of the difference between us and everybody else. I always say, if you're using HighLevel and you're not making money, you're doing it wrong, because, and cool is we can money where our mouth is. I mean, we have all kinds of programs, and we have like 5-day live challenges and all this stuff that are free for anybody to come in and learn how to make money with HighLevel, because again, that's our focus. Because everybody, no one buys software for fun, at least not our software. And ultimately, if you're not making money, we want you to be able to get on that track.
That's something that I think could be good for us too, a little bit.
Yeah.
You're saying that like no one wants really to buy another software. Everybody has a ton of software already. You really need some form of pain point on your client that you can come in and solve, and the tool to solve the problem, right?
That's the goal.
So if you would to rebuild HighLevel today from ground up, what would be the single thing that you would double down on that you did in the beginning?
Same thing we did in the beginning: speed the lead. I mean, fundamentally, this problem, exists now as it always has, which is that the difference between a business that wins and the business that loses is it's 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and someone says, hey, I'm really interested in potentially getting your business to do something for me. Are you on that person in 30 seconds or less? Do you get them scheduled automatically for a call, an estimate, or whatever it is that is next down in your funnel? If not, the person who does beats you all day long, no matter how good you think you are, because really, as human beings, we don't have the capacity to be experts in all things. So as we hire people, the reason we're hiring them is because we need them to be the expert for us, but we don't have the capacity to judge their expertise. What we can judge is just basically what we can see, right? So do you have great reviews? Awesome. Lots of businesses have great reviews. All right, now I've contacted you because you have great reviews, but here's the thing. I'm a busy person. Are you getting me down? Are you getting me through to where I need to as fast as possible? And are you doing it no matter what time of day or not? Because again, it's not about you and your schedule and your need to sleep and all this other nonsense. It's about me. I'm the person with the money. I'm the guy you want to actually get a hold of, right? So ultimately responsive to me, and the businesses that put systems in place that automate that, they win. And ultimately that is speed to lead. And for us, that's where I would start. That's where I still love the most. That's where all the money gets made in life. And fundamentally, that's what our system's all about.
We have some really interesting updates there recently with voice AI being able to schedule right into the calendar. Is there anything more that it come up there? I think I'm kind of missing things if I'm not scrolling through.
It's true. It's true. One of the big channels has always been voice. Inbound calls are worth more than any other type of lead, because that is a high interest person. And small businesses miss calls left, right, and center. They don't even know how many calls they miss. They miss so many because most of them have no way to track it. But if you have inbound voice AI that's there to pick up the call when somebody misses it automatically, now AI is good enough that it can actually then play that receptionist function and get those people basic information booked on calls, or estimates, or whatever it is that you do, So inbound voice AI has just been crushing it. It's a huge part of our kind of go-to-market motion for helping our customers continue to add value, but also for helping other businesses, our customers, get their foot in the door with new customers as well. Because again, it's a simple kind of thing where it's like, listen, this is, we call it, I think of it as, I call it remnant traffic. It's sort of traffic coming in that you're not actually converting that you should be. And, you know, whether it's putting a web chat widget on your website and picking up people who come to the website and are like, yeah, I'm interested, but good God, like I'm going to this right now. I'm trying to find an electrician. And, you know, I this online booking thing, I got so excited. And then it was like, oh, if it's not on this list, you got to call us. And I'm like, okay, I'll call you. And then, oh, we're not open on the weekends. And it's like, oh, forget it. I'll just go with your competitor who is, you know, going to put out something I can use to actually make something happen. But by the way, thanks for wasting my time. You know, and again, it's not saying people don't deserve a weekend. It's just you don't get to shut your business down just because it's the weekend, because that's the time when I have my time to research your business. And so again, speed to lead. How are you making it easy for me to go from interest to action with no human interaction 24/7, regardless of the channel? Could be chat, could be calls, could be inbound, could be outbound. Like whatever that channel is, you better give me an option.
Yeah. And obviously, like growing in the speed that you've done over these 6 years. So how long has it been now? 6 years, 7 years?
Yeah, 6 years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that rapid growth that you've been through now comes with a lot of challenges, right? What would you say been the biggest challenge for you from, you know, the few hundred users to thousand? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold. I'd say on one hand, one of the biggest challenges is hiring the right people and growing the team. Another big challenge is just not changing what it is at the essence of what it is that got you here. Because a lot of times I think people think that somehow what you were doing before, like, that's cool, it worked when you were small, and that's awesome, but now you need to grow up and you need to be bigger and you need to be, you know, blah 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 blah. But the problem is there's a lot of pressure. If you think about, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I think of big companies, I think of stagnation, I think of less innovation, I think of personal. You know, I think of all these words that I think are big companies, and you don't want to be that. So, you know, I think there's a lot of pressure to move into things that on their face kind of could sound good, but fundamentally when you execute on them, ultimately end up really, you know, sort of watering down what made you special to begin with. So for me, it's all about staying true to what got us here. And a lot of that is saying no to, you know, things on their face that sound great, you know, like, hire this person with 20 years of experience, you know, it's got in this thing that you guys need. And it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? They got 20 years of experience, but they also have 20 years of a playbook that's old and tired and ultimately results in a crappy user experience. So no thanks. Like, I'm sure that person's amazing, but actually I'm going to take the person that's, you know, got half as much experience, but is more still flexible and still willing to adopt a way of thinking while they're trying to also solve for the problem, because the way it solved for 20 years ago just isn't the way we want to solve for it today.
I mean, legacy system, legacy coding language, and
I think it's more like legacy culture, legacy attitude, you know, legacy perspective. You know, I meet a lot of engineers who will change their code base, but you know, but finding engineers that will talk to customers, which is a requirement of working for us, that's a different story, right? So for me, those are the things that where we get tripped up. It's the culture stuff, right? It's the,
that's really interesting. I'd like to hear more about that, Shaun.
Yeah.
You know, you have a must, and as a developer at GoHighLevel, you do have customer contact as well.
Always, 100%. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
But that's something that differs quite a lot on other companies. I mean, usually it's like a first line, a second line, and if it ends up on a developer, like, you won't talk to them until second line comes back and kind of.
Yeah, I mean, the ideal circumstance, right, is that you don't have to talk to a developer. But the reason why we put developers on calls isn't to solve. I mean, sure, we want them to solve problems. That's great, but that's not really the purpose. The purpose is to get perspective, because, you know, if you're building something for someone and you never talk to them, that's just weird, isn't it? So fundamentally, you know, the engineers are building the thing. So I want the engineers to actually, and the best engineers, by the way, love this, because they don't want to sit around and like hear from their manager who hears from the product manager who talks to the customer. Like, nobody wants that. Like, that's not fun. That's stupid. So when engineers have questions, it goes both ways, right? Like, customers love talking to the engineers, but engineers love talking to customers if they're the right engineers, because they want to make the solution that actually works for the person. And if they talk to the person, how the heck are they supposed to know? So yeah, we don't want people guessing, and it's a awesome two-way street. The engineers get great feedback, and they learn, and it's not just feedback, but they also learn a lot. Like, context is so key, right? Like, well, what business are you in, and what do you do, and how does this all work, and what is your expertise, and what do you bring to the world that's special? And I think a lot of that, it sort of intangible information can really feed back into a much better product design.
Nice. And what stage would you say that SaaS founders should focus more on retention than a new customer acquisition?
I mean, it's a tough battle. I don't think there's ever a time. I think it's less about when you focus, because that word is a hard one because it assumes a trade-off, but I mean a sort of a hard cut over, right? But I think it's about what percentage of your time should go towards that, because the problem is the more you focus on, let's say, retention, the less you focus on brand new features. And so you have to figure out your customer base. I mean, for our customer base, for a very long time, it was about new features and new features only. And if the old features were mostly working, that's good enough for us. These days, we're almost at the other end of the spectrum, which is if it doesn't work, it's not perfect, it doesn't go out. And if that means we push back new features, well, then so be it. But again, it all depends on where you're at and you're on. Early on, please don't sit around and make everything perfect, because if no one uses it, if you don't have your product market fit yet, if you don't really understand your customer yet and the problem you're solving, you're just wasting time making it perfect, right? So I think for me, it's a balance, and it's a balance that shifts over time as your company changes.
We talked about this a little bit last time too. I like to touch it again, but coming in as new into the high level world, you have so much information to absorb. It's all these courses, it's the Facebook group, it's all these gurus
Yep.
and white labels that will tell you my way is the best way. What would be your recommendation for someone coming in brand new?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I think it's super simple. You start simple. Pick one feature and go sell that feature, and don't come back until you do. And don't worry about all the other features. Don't worry about all the releases. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Go make a sale, because the number one challenge people have in life isn't learning how to click the buttons. It's how to go make the sale. And fundamentally, most of the time you can take one feature, and let's go back to the inbound voice AI. Go to any small business and say, hey, did you know you miss like 20 calls a day? These are people like calling you to make money. Tell you what, and the business owner can say, oh, I just believe you, this and that. And you're like, oh, no problem. How about this? I'll just put this in place for free and I'll prove it to you. And if I prove it to you, pay me. How's that sound? And ultimately, if you make a good pitch, people will say yes to that. And you're selling one feature, you're creating a business on its own right there, and you're learning to make a sale. And you're learning at the same time, what are those pain points those business owners are facing? And you're not spending a ton of time on something that's easy to learn later, which is more features and more tech. But let's just take the opposite view. You know every feature we have, and you're an expert in it, and this and that. But you have no customers. Well, guess what? What good is that? Fundamentally, I always say, look, if you invented a time machine, but nobody knew about it, and you couldn't use it for yourself, what value would it have, right? Like, fundamentally, you have to make sure that the things that you're doing are things that people are using and excited about, and you understand how to talk about them and make that sale. And so for me, it's about picking one feature. Two, if you're really can't hold yourself back and go out and make a sale. And until you do, don't do anything else. That's the way to make the best of high level. And honestly, I think that's the best way of it in life. My 12-year-old right now is making outbound cold calls to small businesses here in town, and he is getting nothing but hung up on left and right. But that's okay. And I watching him do it, because that skill will someday translate into success. That is the thing all adults, if that's the thing they could all learn how to do and just do consistently, we're all salespeople at some level. We got to make the sale. And that's what you need to do here, is take the tool, take one feature, realize, don't worry, all the other features will still be there when you're ready. Go make the sale.
Yeah, and at this point, the system is so big that no one knows the whole system, right?
No, and especially not me. That's the thing. A lot of people will reach out to me and ask me about, what about this and what about that? And all I know how to do these days is really get you to the right person who does actually know, because that's the point. And for us, that's our mission. That's what we do, right? We make tools. We make hammers and saws and nails, and we make every tool in the store, right? But that's great. That's a piece of the puzzle. But unless you know how to take those tools and go make something out of it, irrelevant. And so we would just say, hey, look, start with one tool, right? Start with the hammer. Go learn how to use that hammer to make a sale. And it's not just making a sale, it's also creating value. And then you can come back, and don't worry, the saws and the screwdrivers and everything else will still be there. and it'll be better than ever every single day. So just focus on starting simple.
Here's something that I'm really curious to ask you. Like the development now is
Yeah.
crazy fast. You know, we have AI playing a huge part in that. You know, we can build applications quite friction free today just by prompting, if you will. I'm not sure if you do it that way in such big machinery as yours, probably to some extent. But where do you see AI and CRM system in the next 3 to 5 years from where
Yeah,
we
so
are?
I think AI started out as a very forward-facing sort of thing, but I honestly think the best use cases of AI are when you take an existing process and without even knowing it, AI is sort of helping and or that thing. So to me, it becomes more of a utility play more than almost anything else. So there will be certain scenarios where I think you'll be exposed to it as a consumer, like the inbound AI voice, you'll know it's AI and that's cool. You'll be fine with it because it'll accomplish the task. Yeah, there's a lot of people working to make it feel and seem a little less, and that's great. But I think that that's not necessarily. I don't think that's necessary to be successful. So for me, it's as a software engineer over by trade, I have over my lifetime watched. There's always a new language, and really the big benefit of the new language is that the thing that you used to have to do manually is now automated in the new language. Well, AI to me is a very similar concept where the thing that you used to have to write code for now it just does for you. And that just makes things a lot easier and it allows you to build higher and higher and better things a lot faster and easier. But I don't think the average consumer is going to have to like learn AI. I don't think that's the whole point. That's how it becomes useful and interesting. It's sort of like this magical thing that just happens. But as system designers and product people, we're going to create systems that are powered by AI, which just means that the thing you wanted to get done gets done better, faster, and cheaper. And you're thrilled about it because that's really what you were looking for to begin with.
If let's say I'm an agency or a sales organization, and I had to implement just one AI feature from GoHighLevel, what would you say would be the most?
Well, I mean, again, I would say inbound voice AI because you shouldn't be an agency. You should be a SaaSpreneur. You should be out selling software to small businesses and helping them get success from that because it's a lot more scalable system. It's a lot higher margin product. The problem with the traditional agency is you have 5 clients, you're doing custom bespoke work, you're your customer, you're an underpaid employee. I mean, you're just a consultant. I mean, fundamentally, most people get stuck because that's the thing, right? You're charging them an extremely large amount of money from their perspective. You can only get about 5 customers before you become overwhelmed with the fulfillment. You do the fulfillment full time up until, of course, you lose a couple of customers, and then you're back trying to restart your sales pipeline. It's the hamster wheel of the agency world. Fundamentally, it's broken. The better model is going out and selling a product that is much less expensive, much more scalable, because fundamentally it's software doing the work after you help it get going and actually get it set up. And the customers are thrilled for a lifetime instead of thinking, oh God, how can I get rid of this super expensive person I have to pay every month doing this custom bespoke thing that I don't have the time to even evaluate whether they're doing a good job. Versus you bring it down to a $300 a month product, and it's like, oh, well, that's easy. I can pay that all day long. That's like a utility bill. That's what people should be doing. So you take something inbound voice AI, great example. That business, missing calls every day. Those calls are business. You put inbound voice AI in there. You convert one of those missed calls into a customer, and bam, wow, I'm paying for you every month, all day long, forever, because that's worth it. Versus, hey, did you do that $3,000 plus ad spend amount of work for me this month? I don't know. I'm not sure. Did those leads convert? Who knows? That's a very complex question to answer. And dollar automated version, you're also going on vacation. Imagine that. And they're not calling you and saying, hey, where the heck is that thing? I need you to do this right now, or I'm going to fire you. You know how much money I pay you? All those conversations go away. You're scaling to hundreds of clients. You're not worried if you lose one because you've got many others to take their place.
Yeah, more eggs in the basket, less
Much
risk.
better business model, much more scalable.
Yeah. You have a developer background, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest mindset shift that you've took from going from a developer to a CEO running a massive SaaS business? It must be a quite big shift.
I mean, you maybe. I think the biggest thing is you don't have to try to make a shift. You got to know what you're good at, what you like, what you don't, that kind of thing. But strengths and weaknesses are incredibly important. And I think knowing your weaknesses is as important and maybe even more important than knowing your strengths, because where your weaknesses are, the answer is find someone who doesn't have that as a weakness. Find someone who has that as a strength. And for me, that's what I did. I didn't try to become the best manager or the best HR person or the best hiring person, because I'm not good at that stuff. And frankly, I don't like it. And I don't want to get good at it. I don't want to like it. I don't want to try to be a half good HR manager. I just found some people who were excellent at that. And because they were already excellent to begin with, they're even better now. So fundamentally, and those are important roles. I mean, those are really important things. And so if you're the recipient of those, I want you to have a first-class experience. And so finding great people who can supplant your weaknesses, that's the most important thing. So I would sort of say, I mean, certainly mature in the ways that you think are important, but don't feel pressed to somehow reinvent yourself to be someone who you aren't, because it's going to show. It's going to be, you're going to do a bad job, and you're probably wasting your time and whoever else's time that you're trying to engage with, when you really ought to be finding someone who kicks your butt all day long and that kind of stuff, so that they can actually get in there and help you out, versus you trying to be, everything to everyone.
Yeah. And having a system like GoHighLevel in place, you collect massive amount of business data, right, on your clients. What would you say the best way to leverage that data to improve experience and retention?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it depends on what side you're at, but on our side, the product management teams, that's exactly what they do. So look at all the data from their product areas, and they think, okay, wait a second, what's wrong here? Like, we were looking at, outbound call connect rates this morning, how calls connect, and how do we make that better, right? Like, and why call not connect? And, there are lots of reasons. In some cases, it's the customer, like they've got a really high spam rate because people have been marking their calls as spam. Okay, cool, that's fine. But how do we tell them that? And how do we help coach them through how to do a better job of that? So really using that data to make the product better in those ways, uber important.
And here is where I think that GoHighLevel doing such a good job compared to the other CRMs I've been working with over the years. The ability you have to have your ear to the ground and listen to what we need and what's happening in our businesses, our pain points. You're really good at picking those up quickly and address them and come back with something that's actually solved that problem. And you're doing it in such speed. So sometimes there's a full army of AIs over there that's job for you, super to be a part of this community. And I can honestly say that I've never seen a community with such activity and so many intelligence people in the same group, but also willing to share.
I agree with this. I think our community is really our secret sauce. Our community is amazing. And I think community, you can't do this alone. This is the most important thing. GoHighLevel is not here because of me or because of our team. It's here because of our customers. And whether that's our customers sharing GoHighLevel as a platform with each other to begin with, or once they're all inside of it, this is why our Facebook community is so key, is that people will share solutions. And so important with these solutions is they're not just technical solutions. It's not like, oh, you got to click that button and click this button and everything happens. It's, hey, here's the strategy I use. Here's the mindset I use. Here's the sales script I use. Here's the place I get my leads, right? Like these things really, again, it's about taking the tools and creating something. It's why our customers are so important, because we know that without our customers doing what they do and the way they do it, our tools are worthless. It's like I always say, I could go to the hardware store right now and I can buy every tool in the place. And unfortunately, I'm not going to know what to do with any. I'm not going to build a house. I'm not going to remodel my home. I'm going to probably just hit myself in the thumb with my hammer and done. And fundamentally, that's the point. You need amazing people who have great skills to take these tools and something amazing out of them. And so for me, our community is exactly what that is.
What would you say is the biggest bottleneck you encountered since you started this? It must have been several, but is there anyone that comes in mind that was hard?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I mean, it depends on where you're at in the journey. Early on, it was, if I look back, there's a lot of people I didn't hire soon enough. But we've been bootstraps, early on and always been profitable. And I always think, gosh, well, I don't spend money until I have to. And so on one hand, I can look back and say, well, 2020 hindsight, I should have hired that person 2 years earlier. But at the same time, I'm not sure, had things not worked out the way they did, we wouldn't have been able to afford that person, and that would have been a bad deal for us. So those are the types of things early on that become bottlenecks, I think. But even these days, I could say hiring fast enough, but the problem is, my co-founder I always say, well, let's hire another 100 engineers tomorrow. And he's like, well, you can do that, but the problem is it takes time for these people to warm up. It takes like 6 months for an engineer to really know what they're doing and do an amazing job and really get to the culture and really, get a grip. So, you can hire 100 people. The problem is you don't have time then to, bring them in the way you want to. So there is a bottleneck there of the number of people you can walk in the door. Even if you can hire them fast enough, you're really at some point you're doing a detriment to all of them. So you can only hire at a certain rate, is what it turns out. And that rate increases slowly over time, but that is still a bottleneck to this day.
Understand. I would like to a little bit about coming into to a community, signing with maybe another affiliate, going into a course, trying to learn how to do all this. Obviously, there's a learning period, right, where we have to focus down on something that we think is the right way to go.
Agreed.
Learn that and execute that. There is a ton of resources on GoHighLevel. Where would you start out? Among
our 5-day challenge.
5-day challenge.
It's free. You just go there. It's 5 days. We teach you how to make a sale. It's great. The high-level 5-day challenge, that is where you would start.
Awesome. I have another one here for you. To being a high performer yourself, how would you structure your daily routine? Like stay at peak while in a high growth company.
I'm just live in the moment guy, but I always try to structure it. I think it's more about priorities. It's less about particulars. So for me, it's sure that what's important to me is first and foremost customers. So I wake up, any urgent customer issues, let's get those handled first. No, let's move to development, product engineering, features. That's second. And then from there, I try not to structure my day. I have an open calendar, so I let anybody book. So I'll show up on any call with anyone for any time, for any reason. But outside of that, I don't. And unfortunately, I have corporate meetings these days with several people, but I try to keep all of that at a minimum so that I can be available, because the reality is that business is moving all the time. And if you're not present or available for that, if you're too structured, you yourself, I think, closed off to a lot of great opportunities. And honestly, if there's a problem or a fire or something, you're gonna miss that, because oftentimes the best time to catch it is when there's smoke, there's fire, right? So you want to catch it when there's smoke, not when there's fire. And so fundamentally, I think trying to be as unstructured as possible, as unmeetinged as possible, for me, is the absolute best way to go, because it allows me to stay in the moment with the customer, stay in the moment with the team, and help them and move around very freely without feeling like, sorry, I can't help with that important thing because I got this really rigid, day planned out.
Got it. And could you walk us through like a normal day? How does it look like for you?
I get up at 6 in the morning. I get my coffee. I wake up on the couch watching Bloomberg till 6:30. Then I go jump on Zoom and Slack and Messenger, and I try to chase down any urgent customer issues. And then I go look at the product release list, start talking to engineers, follow up on things that I'm curious about. Then I jump into the Facebook group, make sure there's nothing big going on there, do the release videos so I can get that information out as soon as I can, because again, that to me is really important, because I know there are customers waiting on those changes, those updates, those enhancements, whatever. And then after that, I'll whatever actual meetings I have to do, I'll do. And then of course, stuff pops up on my calendar like this, and I have no idea what it is until I do it. And that's pretty much my day.
So I come in contact with a lot of company leaders and CEOs that feels like they're about to burn out. They're working too intense, or they don't have a structure to what they're doing, or they feel stressed. What would you say is your advice for keeping energy high without crashing?
I mean, it's tough. I think first and foremost, you should probably like what you do. There's always going to be bad days. There's nothing to stop that. I also think having for me, I have 2 co-founders who are phenomenal. And result, I have a great team. And I think that's super important. But my 2 co-founders, I couldn't do it without them. when you have really miserable, crappy days, you got someone to commiserate with, and you got to have someone to soldier through, with. And those two guys are that's what we do with each other more than anything else. I mean, we have our own roles and this and that, but I mean, the reality is we come together to solve really important problems. And when you get kicked in the teeth, it's nice to have somebody there who kind of understands your pain, because we all have friends and family and so forth that can see on the outside and try to help. But I think there's nothing. It's just hard for those people to have the same level of perspective than
Yeah, I
people
get it. But
in the
you can't really share your ups either. Like you go home and talk voice AI with your wife.
Yeah, I mean, no one. Yeah, it's like, at best you're going to get somebody who will listen to you about that. Less, no one's who understand. And so, and with co-founders, for me, you can also say stupid things, you can do stupid things, and you don't have to feel bad about it. Because when you're working with your team, you want to try not to do the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, or and so but I think it's nice with co-founders, you can worry about that stuff. So for me, that's kind of how I distress and how I keep sane. But again, it's a hard deal, right? But to those, for much is given, much is expected. That's just part of the game.
Yeah. And you told me you business from early stage.
Yep.
For people who don't know what that is.
Oh, it just means not taking money from other people to keep the lights on. And ultimately, it's about being profitable. So for me, it's always been about being profitable. We've always been profitable since inception. We've raised 2 rounds of private equity. We were profitable when we did it. We didn't need their money. We still don't. And for me, that's a really important thing. We raised money specifically so that our employees could take money off the table, because we had some incredible employees who've been with us for a very long time. And in a private company, you can use cash on the balance sheet to pay out your employees, or you can bring in outside investors. And in our case, I didn't want to spend any of our money on. I'd rather spend our money on actually growing the company and not on paying people out. And the private equity folks were more than happy to pay for those shares. And so some of our employees took some money off the table, and I couldn't be happier for them, because they were able to do things that in some cases they would have been able to, most importantly, they would have been able to do had they not worked for us. I mean, had they got the highest paying job they could, they would have gotten that home that they'd always dreamed of much earlier, but they were finally able to do that. And for a lot of those folks that, they had promised their others and their families that, don't worry, this is all going to work out someday. And unfortunately, you can only tell that story for so long. So you do want to give that your folks the capacity to fulfill those dreams. And for me, that was what taking money was all about, but we didn't need the money.
There's no such feeling to know that you're building something, you're growing your business, then at the same time you're unlocking this opportunity for lots of people, right, to make money. It's really
that's the goal. That's the goal, and I think that's the most important thing, is that ultimately, you can do all of these things, and you can make everybody successful. You don't have to pick and choose.
We talked a little bit about pricing structure last time. There's so many different ways to do this, right? I see these people getting frustrated in the group because someone has put the subscription out for a really low price, lower than what maybe the agreement with GoHighLevel says, and they how am I going to sell if they're selling it for front and only the
100%. Yeah. So I mean, there's all kinds of problems with that. First and foremost, we're a white label product. You shouldn't be running around selling us as high level. And second, the other thing is you shouldn't be reselling us anyways. You're adding a lot of value on top of that. So for every dollar somebody discounts themselves, you really ought not to discount yourself. Fundamentally, you add a lot of value to the product. If I thought that people were just running around reselling high level, I wouldn't do it this way, because that I wouldn't believe that. I don't like charades. I don't like scams and things. I don't like illusions. And so just reselling your name on our product and reselling it, that's not what the game is about. It's about adding value to it. So that's the most important thing. And second, if you really want to be thoughtful about it, you realize that you actually want those low price people to get a lot of customers, because the more customers that they get, the sooner they're going to learn that those customers still call and say, I want help now. It's 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning. You better be giving me support. And when they don't get support because they're only paying $2.50 a month, well, guess what? Those people collapse. And we've seen this. And I guess I have the luxury of having been doing this for 6 years. I've seen several people pull this stunt, and then they get to these big, and all of a sudden they go bankrupt because fundamentally they don't have the money to support the organization they just built. And so, but with all of that, there's no comparability. You think there's comparability because you're in the high level world, but the people you're selling to, they don't know about high level, and we don't want them to know about high level. And even if they did, they don't care. They need a solution. They're not asking to buy tools. They're not saying, I need a hammer and I need a saw and I want it at the cheapest possible price. No, they're like, I need leads. I need 5-star reviews. I want my website to rank higher. I need more customers, for God's sakes. Solve my problem. That's what they're asking you to do. And they're willing to pay you a good price for a good result. And that is all that matters. And what tools you use, if you got them on sale at that hardware store that day, no one cares. That is not the argument. If that's the argument you are making, you're in big trouble, because that is not what your customers want to buy from you. They do not want to buy a tool through you. You are not a tool reseller. You are a solutions provider. And that is the fundamental difference there. So it's irrelevant what you buy the tools for.
There's so many great examples of that. I heard about this car company here, a rental car company in Spain, where one of the GoHighLevel white labels actually managed to sell the WhatsApp integration for 5,000 euros a month.
Oh yeah, there you go. Car dealerships pay a lot of money. I don't know why, but yeah, I think it's when you're selling, 50,000, whatever, 100,000 euro things or whatever, that there's a lot of money on the line. So you sell another 50,000 euro thing and you can charge a lot.
But it's all about how big is the pain for the clients, what they're willing
100%
to pay for solving that problem.
Isn't that life, right? I mean, I am certain in my life I pay a lot of money for something that costs very little to someone else, but I don't care, because it's not about that. It's about me. It's not about them, right? And that's the point. Yes, you will find many where people pay insane amounts of money for the same thing, but it's just because they're paying relative to the solution you're providing, not the ingredients that go into that solution.
Yeah, definitely. In this particular case, there was a car dealer who's built on a car pool of like 270 cars here on Costa del Sol, and all inbound messaging happened on his private WhatsApp. He was like sitting and forwarding to
talk about stress.
That guy, go home, pick up that car. This needs fix. Go. The insurance needs to be renewed. There, like he's the navigator for everything happening.
Oh, that's tough.
Imagine how he was feeling. Like he built himself into this position where he can't. It's his private phone, right? So he can't.
Right. What's he gonna do? Where's he gonna go?
To use it. So for him to get a function where WhatsApp comes into a system where he can allocate the task to employees and fill up, it becomes priceless, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for him, 5,000 euros a month, having 270 cars rolling, it's nothing, right? Depends on who are we approaching and what problems do they have?
That's what it always is.
We have a very different approach too to what the others that I see, that we don't do any deal under a year's commitment. And
Smart.
The reason they do that is to create this runway long enough to be able to provide an ROI for the client.
Yep, I agree with that. I think that's another great trick where you can say, look, we've got the track record and the confidence to say that this is a 1-year thing. And if you don't have what it takes to hang with us, then too bad. We'll go, you go elsewhere, but we don't want your business because that's really what success takes. It takes time.
Yeah, and know this, like there's no reason for us to bring someone on a monthly commitment where they're going to hang over my shoulder for the next 3 months asking for results, when reality is we need 6 to 12 months to be an ROI.
Totally.
So we say no to clients who can't commit for a year.
I think that's super smart.
And it makes it more scalable, right? Because all of a sudden I'm at the same price point. I'm at like $497 for the base subscription and an additional $127 for unlimited AI on top of it, times 12. It gives me approximately 7,500 euro to use on my delivery.
Yep.
Now, I can do a lot more than someone who took 97 euro upfront to my customer, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you with them being more committed to you, you can be more committed to them.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Now I also have money enough to use someone inside of my organization for fulfillment, because that money.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. You take that money and you can commit it out a year and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, Yeah, it makes all the difference, right? Because now I have money to grow, I have money for fulfillment, and in best case scenario, there's a little profit left already on year one with the client. And from year 2, 3, 4, when everything is implemented, running, customer learn how to use the system, there's less and less need for me to be there, which
Totally. I
makes the
agree with
profit,
that.
the profit just better and better over time, right?
Yeah,
So
it just compounds.
that's something I think could be good for people to adopt and not focus so much on lying on a low price point because there's no magic happen there.
Oh, I agree. I think that is the way everybody should operate it.
Yeah, and maximizing monthly recurring revenue. What would you say is the best way for a SaaS company to increase lifetime value without increasing churn?
It's just providing more value. Really, LTV is about keeping people longer. I do think annual contracts and things also are really good ways to do that. So that's also a really great trick. But if you just continue to add value and give people a reason to pay more, that's really all. It really isn't any more complex than that. It's do you know enough about your customer to answer another one of their pain points to the extent that they're willing to pay for it? And if you can, then you're doing. That's a job you should be doing anyway. So it's either you're doing that job well or you're not.
Okay, so let's say you lost all your money today. You're
Yes,
starting fresh,
that's a bummer.
and you're going to build a SaaS now from scratch, and your target is 10,000 euro. What would be the that you do?
Inbound voice AI.
Yeah,
Remnant traffic. Every business
yeah,
has people come in every day that they're just not picking up, and it's very easy to create ROI there. So whether it's calls, traffic to a website, you name it, they're missing out on those. And then from there, I would go into speed to lead. So, hey, yeah, cool. I'm capturing those leads now. I need to get back to them. Boom, boom, seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. And if I'm doing that, I'm winning and I'm creating value very quickly. And for not saying, oh, in order to do this, you got to buy this and buy this and buy. And there's no ads here. There's no big setup. There's no complexity. It's just saying, look, I'm going to insert myself into your current existing stream of leads in a way that automates the response to those leads, which is what they're looking for.
I read some really crazy number on conversational.com. They do these reports on missed phone calls among the SME segment, etc. I read that it was up to 50% of all calls in the SME segment.
Yeah, and I think the reason why that's believable is because there just isn't a way for small businesses to track this information very easily. They just don't have. They see what's in front of their face, and if they miss a call, and even the ones that have dedicated receptionists, fundamentally those receptionists are often tasked with other things. It's very easy for them to miss those calls, right? And maybe the consumer only gives it 3 rings. Like it doesn't. There's many that add up to missed calls, and there's just no track of it. It's not like at the end of the day there's a big scoreboard that says you've missed this many calls today. Like they just don't see it. They don't know it. And if they look at their phone bill, it just shows number of calls. It shows total minutes. Like there's lots of totals, and there just isn't a lot of visibility here. And so there's a ton of believability in that.
Yeah, and 34% or something like out of those 50 will not even return your call when you're trying to call back.
Oh yeah, because they don't have a way to know that they missed it to begin with. And again, as a consumer, do you really want to sit around and leave a voicemail and you're sort of coddling that business? And at some point you're like, oh, forget it, I'm done here. I'm just going to go to their competitor. Thanks.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I had a luxury real estate agency owner on a discussion the other day, and he told me, I've done this business now for 6 years, and no one knows real estate sales better than me, and there is no way that AI potentially could help me in any way selling to my clients. What would be your answer to him?
I would say that that's a very dangerous attitude. That's saying there's no progress out there. There's no change in the world that will ever change me. That seems unlikely. I think that if AI can show that, for example, it can do things like look at cardiology, radiology, and find cancer at a higher rate than the average cardiologist or radiologist. That's a incredible stat, and it's going to make people. That's going to make it so that there are less deaths in the world. If you can do that, it probably can sell real estate. Not exactly. Just saying, selling real estate, curing cancer, probably more difficult than selling real estate. And so as a result, if you can do things like that, but I just think closing yourself off to that to the idea that progress, something so huge and so fundamental in change, it just seems likely that that person's going to get honestly taken out by AI, because while certainly upfront and to begin with, like all new technology, by the way, it'll be clunky, it'll have problems, it'll be easy to spot the flaws. Go back and look at the first iPhone. It was terrible compared to what is out today. I mean, you could look at that and easily say that's never going to be something everyone has. That's actually no one, that version of it, what never was the thing that everyone would have. But it's the fact that it starts it off and it goes somewhere else that's so much better because it continues to get worked on. And it's those early adopters who fundamentally drive that progress. Someday they're going to wake up and they're going to realize, oh my God, everyone does this. And now I'm just out of business because AI actually does sell real estate, and it was programmed by people who are as great as sales at me. But now you take that and you magnify it out to this amazing AI voice that sounds so human, and wow, I'm out of business, and they've just competed me. So yeah, I think that's a very scary attitude to take.
Yeah. Talking about voice AI, you released a ton of new languages the last couple of
languages,
weeks.
dialects, all that stuff. Yep.
Is there anything more on that end coming up?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're just early days here, right? Like everything you see out there. So the great thing for us is we do not try to push the envelope. And I know this sounds weird, but here's the thing: just because it's cool doesn't mean it's worth doing. So I look at all these cool humanoid robots, and I'm like, man, that's cool. And then I'm like, wait a second, have I seen any of them do something I would buy? Not really. Like, I mean, I've seen some demos that get close and this and that, but again, it's early days, right? But eventually, when they have the does laundry perfectly robot, I'm all about it. Like, sign me up. But that's never the demo. The demo's like, it's running on the path or it's jumping and all that's cool. But I want it to do my laundry instead, actually, right? I don't need it to jump or run on the path. I'm good there. I need the laundry or the dishes or the cooking or something. But as soon as that happens, I'm all about it. And so what we do too, we wait for our customers to show us the way on this. So what we find is take those cool demos and our customers go out and they are the ones that do the real work of figuring out, okay, how am I going to take the running on the trail robot and make it actually do the laundry for the customer? Because that's really the pain point here. And once they do it, we snatch it up and we say, all right, we're going to put this in the platform. We're going to make this happen. So on the inbound voice AI side, I can't take credit for having shown that this works. Our customers showed us that this worked, and then we adopted it into the platform. And that's really what we do with everything. We really wait for our customers to say, hey, not only is this cool technology cool, but more importantly, it actually solves this real problem for businesses, and this is how it does it. And once they show us that, we're like, great, we'll take that, we'll put it into the platform for you, and we'll make it part of the flow.
Amazing, Shaun. I really want to thank you to show up here today.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for having me.
Super interesting to pick your brain like this, and I hope we'll get to see you here again.
Oh, heck yeah, absolutely.
Do you have anybody that you would recommend to come on here? Do you think will be a good fit?
Oh, good question. I mean, there are lots of great people. You should definitely look at our YouTube channel. I think that's kind of where, because I think they're different people for different, everybody has their own unique perspective. I think this is what I've learned is that there's no one person for anybody, right? Like there's people that say I like, but I mean, I like them for different reasons. And then somebody else, but that same person, I've had this experience where someone else will listen to that person and they're like, oh, I hate that guy.
You pass it forward to someone that you think you could.
You know what I like? Like you should go talk to Rob Bailey or Mike Cooch. You know what I love about those guys? Those guys are like me. They're not like they're old. Like they've been doing this for a long time and they're still successful. So and they don't need a private jet or Lamborghinis to try to make you like pretend that they're important. They've actually found a way to consistently do good business for a very long time, and they're super smart and they're super kind and they're super they're giving and I've been I met them when I was a nobody and they were incredibly giving to me then and they're still giving to me now. So those are the types of guys that I would recommend you talk to.
I will ping you later to get those names in
Sounds good, man. I love it.
Hunt them down. Thank you very much, Shaun.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That you came here today, and it's going to be super valuable for everybody to see this, and hope to see you here again.
Hey, that sounds good. I'll talk to you later. Bye.